All the characters in the story are over 18 years old. I was driving home from work when the bell rang. Reluctantly, he took the phone. My older sister's husband called. He started complaining about his wife, whom he asked to pick up from the corporate party. I was tired all day, but I had to agree. There was no way he could take her away from there. When I got to the place where my sister worked, I saw a disheveled woman. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup was smudged, and her clothes were in a mess. It was obvious that my little sister had had a great time at the party. I helped a drunk Jessica into the car, and then she reached out in my direction. I turned her face away with my hand, restraining myself, and yet she was somehow inadequate. I went to a secluded place where I could take care of my little sister. After parking, he carefully dragged Jessica into the back seat of the car. It was obvious that someone at the corporate party had already taken advantage of her condition. Hardly anyone would refuse such an attractive-looking woman. I sent everything, and her husband too. No, I didn't hate him, but then I was thinking in the wrong place. We made love in the back seat of the car. I knew that this was not the right thing to do. My sister, after all. But then I didn't care. Moreover, she wanted to. I wouldn't offend her by refusing. After that, I started the car and drove to her house, immersed in my thoughts and emotions. I realized that I was not ashamed. She's not an angel. She'll get over it. Finally, we arrived. Jessica's apartment was on the 3rd floor. I was dragging my drunk sister with her hand on my shoulder. She was in a terrible state, slurred and stumbled. We did the same thing again that we did in the back seat of the car. Jessica turned in my direction, her eyes closed. She fell asleep satisfied. I knew that I probably should regret what had happened between us, but I couldn't bring myself to feel shame or guilt. Just like the first time in the car, she stopped being just a sister to me, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. I couldn't help but wonder what I was going to tell her in the morning, although at that moment I was also a little drunk, so I couldn't think straight. I decided to just sleep, hoping that everything would work itself out. Jessica woke up first in the morning. She didn't look very good after drinking strong drinks. Slowly coming to her senses, she began to realize what was happening. I was already sober, as I wasn't too drunk before going to bed. At that moment, I was a little panicked myself and couldn't find the words to answer. Out of desperation, I decided to repeat our favorite activity. Then it dawned on me that such a decision could only make things worse. But to my surprise, although my sister was in shock, she did not resist at all. She got up first and ran into the bathroom. Finally, we decided to have breakfast, drink coffee, and discuss everything in the kitchen. "Well, how was the corporate party?" I asked to start a conversation. The nurse shrugged her shoulders. It was interesting and a little embarrassing. I was calm, or I wanted to seem so. "You should have held back. I'm drunk. I don't understand what I'm doing. It's not my fault." "Yes, you justify yourself to your husband. Tell me you were drunk, so you cheated with a colleague." "Well, come on, please don't tell him anything, and I'm not mad at you." She winked at me. "Well, I'm glad you liked it," I answered her, and a smile spread across my pleased face, realizing that she wanted to appease me. "We could do it again, if you want to, of course." I nodded my head in agreement. Jessica decided to put her younger sister Olivia under me. The younger sister was the exact opposite of the older one. The girl was shy, and I would hardly have believed that she was ready to cheat on her husband. She valued her marriage more than the older Jessica, even though she had a difficult relationship with her husband. And so, Jessica called me. She was excited and asked me to meet Olivia and take her somewhere from her husband. Jessica talked her into it. My jaw dropped. I agreed, although I didn't fully believe it. I thought the older sister was joking. When I took Olivia to my house, she confessed her intentions. I was stunned by her decision. Did she really agree? I underestimated the older one. It seems that if she tries hard, she can turn Olivia into the same cheater as herself. When we arrived at my place, Olivia was not as brave as she had been before. She had a shy smile on her face, and it was clear that she was nervous about what was about to happen. "You know what happened with Jessica, right?" I asked, trying to gauge her reaction. "Yes, she told me everything," she replied softly, blushing with embarrassment and at the same time brightening up. We started talking, and at her request, I began to tell her my version of our story with Jessica. When I shared the details of our incident, Olivia listened attentively, and her curiosity was aroused. After a long conversation, she and I went into the room, and I did the same thing with Jessica. Olivia decided to stay with me for one more night. She wanted to repeat what she had started. Apparently, she realized that something was not quite right. I looked somehow dissatisfied the second time. After breakfast, she took me to the room herself. Olivia was married for 5 years. One day, she confessed to Jessica that her husband had been neglected and that he was cheating somewhere with his mistress. In fact, you can put an end to their relationship. Recently, she found her husband with his mistress at home. Decided to ignore the principles and follow Jessica's advice, she agreed to take classes with me, knowing that I would not harm her. I was excited, and so I did it with Olivia twice already. Our first time was awkward, but the chemistry between us was undeniable. That's why we had a great time the second time. We lost count until the next morning. She wasn't jealous of Jessica because Jessica was also a dear person to her. Her unfaithful husband knew nothing about our affair. Meanwhile, Jessica was living her old life. As I said, she was a wild child, unapologetic, and free. Olivia and I were both worried about Jessica's reckless behavior, but we knew she couldn't be stopped. I always said if her husband finds out, it's her problem. And although Jessica continued her wild antics, we were a family bound by devotion. This led us to an experiment. "Let's try something new," Jessica suggested one day, when they were both at my place at once, helping with the house cleaning. Her voice was quite mischievous. She looked at Olivia and me questioningly. "And what are you up to?" the younger one asked, expecting Jessica to say something strange again. "I was thinking about doing it together," Jessica replied, a mischievous smile never leaving her face. This time I was surprised by this statement myself. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Olivia admitted, her eyes wide with uncertainty. "Yes, I've never done it either, but I want to try," Jessica admitted. "Well, come on, it's going to be fun." I was silent while they were talking. It all depends on the decision of the youngest. After a moment's thought, Olivia nodded, taking a deep breath to calm her nerves. "Okay, let's try, but I can't guarantee anything. I had to do all the work." I began to realize that everything is not as beautiful as in the movies. To be honest, I was confused, which made the girls laugh. It was clear that I didn't know what to do at all. Jessica and Olivia exchanged smiles, both of them laughing at my reaction. This went on for several months, but I had no idea that everything would change so soon. Olivia soon realized that she was pregnant with my child. This fact made her finally decide to divorce her husband. In the meantime, I was going to change jobs. I quit my old job and found a decent job in another city. Olivia decided to move there with me. As soon as we settled in our new place, we agreed that we needed to keep our connection secret. We told everyone that we were a couple. Jessica visited us occasionally. I knew for sure that no matter what happened, I would always love and protect my younger sister and the unborn child. So even though I wasn't going to get married a second time, I still got a family. All the best to everyone.